Alright, south. Up. Turn off lights. Done. Elevator begin moving. I like to imagine somebody was waiting for that thing. Just, man, this thing's been stuck here a long time. Okay, so we didn't really explore much over here. I'll take one more look. And actually, we were running a bit late. What up? Or we're not yet running late, but we're running a bit long. What I am going to do is take a very quick look at a legit copy of the map and see if there's any areas I've missed. So just a second. Alright. Great Dome. Oh, that's what I was missing. Okay, there was a way up in the Infinite Corridor that I overlooked. Now I know where I'm going. Okay. Here we go. A stairway leads up and a door leads out to the Great Court. So this is what I was missing, and this is also what I referenced earlier. The door to the Great Court is one way, and if we go out, I'll show you what happens. So, yeah. Remember, this is one of the doors that's always locked at night. You won't be able to get back in if you go out. So if you go outside, in the spring and summer, this cheery green court is a haven from classwork. Right now, the majestic buildings of the main campus are almost invisible in the howling blizzard. A locked door bars your way to the north. So yeah, door is locked. So basically, we're stuck here. If you wait here, you'll eventually die of the cold. So no use here. The game does warn you before you do it, so it's not too much of a kick in the unmentionables. But it's just a reminder that the weather outside wants you dead just as much as everything inside. So from here, let's go up. Cold as ice, you might say. Ha ha! Now then. So we go up to the Great Dome. This is what I was looking for earlier, but I had overlooked this particular way up. Now, for reasons that would only make sense to an adventure game protagonist, we're about to climb up onto this very slippery surface in the middle of a blizzard. So yeah, here a walkway circles the base of a huge ornate dome. Below is the Infinite Corridor. From stories of tech exploring trips, you recall that there's supposed to be a ladder here. On the other hand, there's a shiny rope-like thing hanging near where the ladder used to be, leading upwards. Oh yeah, we nearly... Oh wait, no, this isn't outside yet, my bad. That comes later. Okay, with the ladder... Okay, a shiny rope-like thing hanging near where the ladder used to be and leading upward. Well, if it's rope-like, it's safe to climb. When it comes to making the grade and getting my assignment done, I will sacrifice anything. Anyway, okay, the wet stuff in the strand sticks to the gloves, but otherwise doesn't affect you. So that's a little clue there. If we tried to grab this thing and climb it normally, it would hurt our hands. You have a little trouble climbing up to the catwalk, but grab the rail just before your strength gives out. You heave yourself up onto the catwalk. You stand out on the catwalk, catching your breath for a moment. Your eyes stray along the strand you climbed. It trails along the catwalk, where it joins something large and squishy squatting on the far side. A single bright blue eye opens in the squishy mass, and the tentacle, for that's what it is, retracts. The mass almost flows through the spaces in the catwalk railing and drops to the floor 15 feet below. Before you can react, it's gone. Okay, so we just climbed some kind of gibbering monstrosity up its tentacle, and it just sort of disappeared without so much as a howdy-do. Wonderful! That's fantastic. Almost certainly, if this was Call of Cthulhu, that absolutely would be a sanity hit. Okay, where the pulpy mass was squatting, a wooden ladder lies on the catwalk. So, lower ladder. You lower the ladder to the walkway below. It's just the right length to climb down. Perfect. So now we can get up and down the old-fashioned way. Although why would you want to when there's a perfectly good tentacle right there? Or when there was. Okay, there's no further way up, but a small metal door is set in the side of the dome. Open door. You open the door, and freezing air, blowing snow, and howling wind enter and whip around you. Okay, so out. Roof of Great Dome. You are perched precariously on the roof of the Great Dome. A set of narrow indentations in the dome provides a dangerous route to the very tip-top of the dome. So, yeah, we aren't going to climb to the top of this friggin' thing in the middle of a blizzard. Why not? Let's climb this friggin' thing. Why not? In for a penny, in for a pound. This is the very top of the Great Dome. Great Dome. A favorite place for tech fraternities to install cows, Volkswagen Beetles, giant birthday candles, and other bizarre objects. The top is flat, round, and about 5 feet in diameter. It's very windy, which has kept the snow from accumulating here. The only way off is down. In the exact center of the flat area is a bronze plug. Outside the land of sun and humidity, we hates it precious. Exactly. Well, going outside, man. In fact, I think we can go ahead and add another trespassing count here. The door wasn't locked, but we are assuredly not meant to be here. Alright, so what's this plug? Holding too many things. Ah, goddammit. Alright. Down, in, drop axe. Out, up. Pry the plug out of its socket, revealing a cylindrical hole about the same diameter but somewhat deeper. There's a piece of paper in the hole. Take paper. Ugh, fuck you. Okay, drop plug. Take paper. Alright, better get indoors before we freeze to death. Down. Okay, let's read this thing. You unroll the piece of paper and read the shaky handwriting. I can no longer face what I've been doing. I can't sleep. I start at the slightest noise. And even dulling my senses with alcohol or drugs is no longer enough. I refuse to participate in what he is doing anymore. Either he's insane, or I am insane, or, and this is what I fear most, the universe itself is insane. I have only one final warning. I am the only suicide, but I will not be the final death. The name signed to it is that of the Alchemy department graduate student. Okay, so the other person on the sign-up sheet in the Alchemy department is the person with this suicide note. So that's a pretty significant thing we're going to want to confront the professor with. However, there is one thing we need to do before we go in, because there will be a time sequence that we need to get just right, and we need one item before we can do that. So let's see. Is there something we can drop here? So down. I'm going to leave a note about where I left the crowbar. So it was here. So yeah, there's one thing around here, and I think it's actually something to do with the slab. Let me double check real quick. Renovated cave. Yes, there was something else there. Alright. Alright, now, infinite corridor, so we need to go back down. Back down to that renovated cave. Ah, this is what I missed. A path down leads to a floor partly covered with rough granite. That's what I was missing. Okay, so down we go. So it's pays to pay very close attention to room descriptions. And this is why I have verbose turned on, so it's refreshing them. Because if by default when you pass through an area, it will not repeat its room description unless you look. So with verbose on, it's constantly refreshing these, so I'll know if there's something in there that I haven't actually explored before. So we head down. Before the altar. Yeah, it's a good command. Okay. You're at the bottom of the cave. The huge slab of granite in the center is a sort of altar. It's carved with strange and disturbing symbols, the largest of which looks very familiar. Some of the symbols are obscured by rusty red stains. Nearby is an iron plate set in the concrete floor. Lying to one side of the altar altar stone is a sharp, thin-bladed knife. Okay. Look at plate. The plate is iron, about 2 feet square, and it looks like it could be slid open. A curious feature of the plate is that it has upward projecting dents in it, which appear to have been punched from below. Right. Hey, Orange! Hey, we got raiders, come on in. Orange, good to see you, friendo. How's it going? How goes Baldur's Gate 3 tonight? Alright, so let's open the plate. You slide open the panel, revealing a dark pit below. Immediately, there is a response from below. It went forwardly stuck on a stupid fight. Ah, I know that feeling. You'll get it. It'll just take a while before you figure out how the game wants you to cheese it, or just some other way to cheese it. Anyway, Look in pit. Have you tried seducing it? Okay, you peer through the hole, shining your light into the Stygian darkness below. The commotion below is growing louder, and suddenly you catch a glimpse of things moving in the pit. Without consciously realizing you have done it, you slam the panel shut, reeling away from the source of such images. Now you know what has been done with the missing students. I mean, those that weren't turned into the zombie slaves we saw earlier. But yeah, this is what I'm talking about with the writing in this game. Sometimes it gives you a best guess description of what the character is looking at, and sometimes it sort of leaves you in the dark. It doesn't describe it as necessarily unfathomable. It's just the game refusing to elaborate further and letting your mind fill in the blanks there. Some of it is still very evocative, and I'm actually pretty impressed with how the writing generally holds up. Anyway, so now we can't open the panel again. There's nothing else we can do with that. If we do that, you would sooner die than open that panel again. So yeah, this thing fucked with us pretty bad. So let's take the knife. This we will need. Ah, motherfucker. Okay. All right. You know, I don't think we'll need the fire axe for some time, so let's retreat. Now we can go confront the professor. Yep, south. Up. Because, yeah, the axe won't do no good, but the knife will. Let's take a look at this thing. In fact, we'll go ahead and leave some reminders. Yeah, that was a problem with a lot of interactive fiction. They usually had a limit of about, like, 10 or 11 items you could carry. So, we'll say there. Knife. And if you went over that, there was a chance you'd drop, like, 2 items randomly. This is actually relatively... I'm not going to say fair, because it's still a bit of an issue, but at least it's not just dropping stuff when you try to carry it. It just says you can't do that right now. But trust me, it gets worse. Anyway, the small knife is clean, sharp, and has a long, thin blade and a wooden handle. Only the tip of the blade appears at all dull or used. Alright, so we're in the temporary basement. Let's get back up. Let's finally confront the professor and get our frickin' paper back. Here you want to save your game. Shit is going to happen when we confront the professor about this. So, let us... Here we go. Hey, buddy. Alright. Now, ask professor about student. Okay, no, that's just the general comment about the student. I was wondering if you could ask specifically about him without showing the note. But no, we show note to professor. He reads it carefully. What drivel! This just confirms my suspicions. He had clearly gone over the edge. Drug use, drinking, insanity. It's only too bad that I didn't realize what was happening. I might have helped him. The professor continues to gaze at you with a distinctly predatory air. Ask a professor about student. I think this changes his reaction. Archway opens to the south. Or maybe it's I have to go south and that will prompt the event. Yeah, here we go. Ah, you'd like to see the lab. This is it, yeah. Basically, if you tried to explore earlier, he would stonewall. But now that we've shown him the note, he's quite a bit more cooperative. The professor asks in a rather unctuous tone. You'd like to see the lab? The professor asks in an unctuous tone. Come right in. He ushers you through the archway into the lab, following quickly behind you and turning on the lights. The lab is an ultra-modern, fully equipped chemistry lab. Unfortunately, or perhaps fortunately, you aren't a chemistry major, so the equipment might as well be magical. Ah, the professor is here. There's a lab bench and an alchemy department computer here. Sitting on the lab bench is a vat. The vat contains Atari liquid. The professor guides you to the center of the lab, where a strange pentagonal symbol is chalked on the floor. He cuts one of the chalk lines with a small knife you had not previously noticed. Important detail there, pushes you into the center of the chalked symbol and redraws the line, muttering softly and rhythmically as he does so. Yeah, Atari liquid. Yeah. There, that's done. Don't move from there. It'll only make things worse from you. So now we're in the middle of some shit, and we need to find a way out of here. There's some interesting little details with the symbol here. Look at symbol. Oop. Look at... You can't see any pentag symbol there. Whatever. Alright. Professor is preparing something at the lab bench. Alchemy is my chosen field, and I've gotten ridiculed for it. It's like chemistry, except that chemists don't recognize that some natural laws are enforced by persons, not physics. Some of them will grant power, or knowledge, but they must be placated or even bribed. They're not of this earth, not demons or devils, and they aren't always friendly. Oh, thanks, Kirby. To me, it's just an unpleasant necessity in the path to power. When I'm done, they won't laugh anymore. So, look at chalk. For want of a better word, call this a pentagram. It isn't particularly pentagonal, but it's an odd shape chalked on the floor, and it's roughly pentagonal. The professor enters another pentagram and begins a highly choreographed ritual. This may seem a little silly to you, but the symbology is what's important. Certain alignments, certain aspects. There's certain alignments, certain aspects. In a few moments it won't matter anyway, he remarks. There's very little room for error here, so be calm. He chants, he brandishes strange instruments, moves about inside the pentagram, and occasionally points to you. It becomes clear what exactly he meant by the word bribe. Let's get out of this thing. Your feet approach the chalk line and then stop. You can't push your way out. The chant grows more complex, with rhythms and cadences that make you want to stop your ears. The room appears to be getting darker. Boy. Okay, we need to stop this. Throw stone at Professor. Your hand won't pass over the chalk line. A thick black mist begins to form in the room. Parts are darker and parts lighter, and the dark parts form a disturbing shape. The professor chants and calls more loudly now, and you realize the calls are being answered. Oh, boy. You see nothing special about the mist. Yeah, there you go. Sometimes they get descriptions in for things in progress, and sometimes they miss the spot. Anyway, the room is now freezing cold, though the windows are shuttered and tightly curtained. Low, bone-rattling vibrations shake the room in cadence with the chant. The black mist is growing thicker. The professor chants more rapidly, producing strange, guttural sounds, scarcely human. Never did look at the professor. What's he got? The man looks like a professor. He's wearing a white lab coat, rather stained with chemicals, and a GUE tech class ring. He's working on something on the lab bench in front of him. Yeah, there's a shadow, Daniel. Yeah, here we go. The black mist swirls wildly around the room, and a deep bass voice gibbers out of thin air. The professor's brow drips with sweat. Ask Professor about creature. Yep. Professor is intently following his ritual and won't be distracted. A thing like a tentacle with a demonic face wraps slowly around you. The room recedes into a great distance as you're pulled away. Before you die, you see what the tentacle is a part of. Again, it's a very strategic withholding of descriptions. It's just, you're only getting a fraction of the... You're only getting a fraction of what's going on as this thing pulls you into some other dimension. Presumably kills you horribly. Anyway. Let us do that the right way. So, there's no real way to know this ahead of time, but we do need the knife going into that, and the only clue is the knife he produces. So this puzzle is definitely more on the Sierra side of things. You're sort of expected to go through it at least once and get offed and deduce what it is you exactly need to do. And there's a bit of a timing element too. I'll show you. Yeah, it's not great. Some of the puzzle designs in this game are perfectly fine, but mostly I like it just on the strength of its writing, which overall I think is still pretty strong. But a lot of the puzzle design is definitely at that Zork mode of you kind of need to know the actual logic before you can do anything with it. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah, that's the thing. Let's just say it was the style at the time. It's not great. But anyway, there's a thing we need to do here, and we need to do it very carefully, because we're in the symbol, but if we try to bust out of it now, he'll take the knife from us, and then we're boned. So we wait for him to get into his own little protective pentagram. The professor enters another pentagram and begins a highly choreographed ritual. Here we go. Now! Alright. I forget exactly how we use it. We say cut line... Wait, cut chalk with knife. You cut the outer lines of the pentagram. It no longer completely encloses you. The professor sees what you've done out the corner of his eye. He stares, horrified. Stop! Don't move! He says between verses of the chant. The chant takes on a pleading tone. Alright, let's get out of this thing. You push your way through a soft spot just over the scuff marks and are outside the pentagram. The air is thick and close. Alright, we need a way out of here now. Alright. Let's see. He's a mist lab. Do we go north? I never did make the room for this. Let's take the time to accurately... Let's take the time to perform some cartography. Can we go north? Is there anything here? Missed a lab bench and an alchemy department computer. Ah, I remember now. Yeah, right. I don't think we can leave through the door. I think he's probably locked it and got the key. I forget what this said. I'll have to reread that later. But yes, the solution here... look at bench. Bench is a chemistry lab. It has a chemistry lab bench. It has a marble top and casters at each corner. Various equipment litters the bench, none of which you recognize, but the lab bench also contains a vat. Okay. A black mist swirls wildly around the room, and a deep voice gibbers out of thin air. "No!" screams the professor, and jumps towards you out of his own pentagram. He realizes what he has done and tries to re-enter, but the mist grabs at him. Okay. So, let's see. I believe we can move this bench. Bollocks. It's heavy, but it moves, revealing a hinged metal trapdoor below. Ah, shit. Alright, so it got us because we had ran out of moves. Okay, so you really do... You hold a finger up to the mist while looking at your map. The mist pulls out a phone and checks it through book. So, yeah, again, tight time frame here. You need to know exactly what to do. This is trial and error, and it's not terribly fun. But it is definitely setting a tone. So let's try that one more time. Push bench. Open trapdoor. And down we go. Bye-bye, Professor. Have fun with Cthulhu. Alright. Now we're back in the cinder block tunnel, which I believe is right here. There, we'll have to squeeze these around a little bit. Getting a bit crowded here. Alright. From above, you hear a thunderous noise, a maniacal scream, and then the sound of equipment smashing. The trapdoor slams shut, but around it pours a blinding flash of light. Finally, you hear an almost inaudible whimper, then nothing. The light fades, leaving you in the dark. Alright. Open trapdoor. So yeah, now we're on the other side of that trapdoor we couldn't open earlier. So, up we go. What you never... Oh! Motherfucker! Okay. The destruction wreaked on the lab turned it into a dark area, and I got eaten. Okay, you know what? That's mean, but I'm mostly just amused by that. Open trapdoor. Down. Okay. Now. Turn on lights. Oh, wait, right. Open trapdoor. Alright. The lab is in shambles. It looks like something red and sticky has been spread over the walls, ceiling, and floor. Much of the equipment, particularly that near the center of the room, has been destroyed. There's an open metal plate in the door. Now, you may recall there was a computer in here, which presumably we could have used to retrieve our paper, but now that's smashed up and no longer possible. Thanks a lot, Cthulhu. That's a 20-page assignment. We were at least a good ways into it. You know how much fucking work that's going to be to recover? What an asshole. Anyway. Right. So, oh wait, no, the computer's there. Look at computer. Yeah. Okay, written on a marking pen on display is Lovecraft. Okay, maybe it's working. Maybe Cthulhu spared the computer. Awesome. You turn the machine on, performs a quick self-check, then displays a message on screen. Unable to boot because no disk inserted. Please insert a dismountable disk. Oh, man. More of that vintage 80s tech. So, you know what? Here's the thing. Old tech is basically indestructible, but it's also finicky. So the computer survived Cthulhu's rampage on the room, but now it's not going to work because we don't have whatever weird-ass thing it needed to boot up. Go figure. Okay. So there is a thing we need to do here. So look at liquid. The elixir is thick and tarry. Yep, gotta have the MO disc. Torpid bubbles break the surface every so often, though you can find no source of heat to produce them. Alright, let's save. This is very important. We don't necessarily need to bring it with us, and it's actually about to lighten our load a little bit. But Let me see. Can we do anything with it that's potentially lethal? Drink liquid. It would be like drinking road tar. Touch liquid. You touch the liquid with your finger. It's very unpleasant. The liquid is stingingly hot. You pull your finger out, and it's some time before it feels normal again. Alright, so it's obviously not a good idea to drink this, so we aren't that suicidal, fortunately. But there is a very weird thing that we're meant to do with this. Remember that hand we've been carrying around? In fact, let's update a few things here. So now that our paper's gone, and so is the professor, our current tasks are basically down to find out what the hell is happening and get past the weird zombie urchin, not quite zombie urchins. So yeah, basically all direct goal we have at this point is gone, and it just comes down to wandering around until we find out what's going on, and hopefully a solution will emerge. We're just lost at this point. We're just freestyling. Anyway, we are running a bit long, but we are actually pretty close to the end game here. Pour Coke in. You drop the 2-liter bottle of classic Coke. Don't drop the bottle in there. You're just supposed to pour it. Fucking programmers, man. Anyway, completely covered by the tarry liquid. Okay, take Coke. You reach into the Coke, fish around rapidly due to the horrible feel of the commercials, and draw out the 2-liter bottle of classic Coke. As it emerges, the elixir flows off. Maybe. Open Coke. You fiddle with the cap for a while. What fun! Much better than working on your paper. Yeah, I don't think it's going to let me do that. Yeah, same thing. Go figure. Alright, we're going to restore since we're not losing time with the flashlight. Though I think we got a good long number of moves before it runs out. But assuredly, if it does run out, you're boned. Anyway, so here's what you're meant to do with it. And I don't know how you're meant to deduce this or not, but we're going to throw the human hand in there. And watch what happens. And this is the experiment. Yeah, I'm very disappointed, 1987 developer. Yeah, what the hell? When you dip the mummified hand in the liquid, the elixir begins to bubble furiously. You can't really see the hand, except when a finger pokes up every so often. The hand bobs to the surface. It's odd, but it looks like one of the fingers moved. Now, as long as we're waiting for this to happen, let's take that brass hyrax that the professor was wearing. The hand splashes to the surface. The fingers are moving. Yeah, not now, hand. So, I don't know if this counts desecration of a corpse. This is almost certainly another theft count. And I think we can specifically add a looting the corpse charge here. 1 count, looting the deceased. I mean, granted, he was going to sick us on Cthulhu. He was going to sick Cthulhu on us, so, you know, he kind of dug his own grave there. It's sort of like if someone had turned a wild animal on you and you escaped and it ate him instead. I don't think you would be charged for anything. I think you escape liability by virtue of the fact that you were not responsible for the thing that happened. Yeah. Text adventures and deduction? Usually the correct solutions were too insane for that. Anyway. Hand is trying to crawl out of the vat. So, look at hand. There are stains, scars, and a tattoo on the hand. It looks perfectly normal and alive, ignoring the fact that there is no arm attached to it. It doesn't appear to mind, so why should you? Alright, let's give this thing a helping hand. You grab the wriggling hand and draw it forth, newly animated from the vat. As it emerges, the elixir flows off. The hand scuttles up to your arm and perches quietly on your shoulder. So now we've got Thing from the Addams family on us. Awesome! Welcome aboard, Thing. Now, I believe we're meant to do this. Yeah, I know, it's great. Alright, so I think, can we leave? Gold ring depicting a hyrax eating a twig. Such rings are familiarly known as brass hyraxes. Here we go. Okay. Turn off lights. Put hyrax on hand. The ring fits the hand perfectly. Yeah, it's an FF14 minion. It's the floating hand. Awesome. So yeah, we don't know it at the time, but the Hyrax is necessary to be on the ring to solve a puzzle. So there's one more thing we need to do before we go to the end game here. We're going to need to find our friend the urchin. Thing is about to be... Okay, open door. There we go. Thing is about to be very important. You're worn out. Drink some Coke. See, at this point, if I've got a living, autonomous hand perched on my shoulder, I think I don't need caffeine. I feel like the adrenaline of the weird shit I'm dealing with is almost certainly enough to keep me awake. Okay, now. Slouching nearby is an urchin. So, the urchin, if you poke at him and show various things to him and you talk to him a bit, he'll mention that there's been other stuff happening around here that keeps people away. In fact, ask urchin about college. Or ask urchin about GUE. Ask urchin about building. What? There's a line of dialogue or something that where he talks about some of the weird stuff. I just came in to get out of the snow. I wouldn't come in here if it wasn't snowing. He seems very nervous talking to you. Whatever. Anyway, yeah, the line of dialogue is something about how he he wouldn't be here if he had anywhere else to go because there's stuff here and people have gone missing and not just students. But anyway, what you're meant to do is show him our new friend. Show hand to urchin. The urchin sees the hand twitching. I heard what happens around here. I'm not getting fed to a monster. He lets loose a scream of fear and zooms away. Something's dropped from beneath his parka as he departs. He slows for a moment, decides not to retrieve them, and disappears into the distance. Aw, thing's a friendly hand, Mr. Urchin. He didn't mean no harm. It's not his fault he is what he is. Anyway, so, there's a crowbar, and most importantly, a bolt cutter here. This we will need. So, I think now we're officially ready for the end game, but we do need that liquid nitrogen. It always comes down to bolt cutters. Pretty much. So yeah, if you read between the lines, our urchin friend was a bike thief, and by wandering around in here, he'd kind of bitten off more than he could chew, and he was already kind of freaked out and nervous. And if you approach him too aggressively, I think if you actually try to attack him, he basically instantly kills you with a switchblade. So there's nothing else you can really do with him. So we are here. Right, that's where we with the crowbar. That's good. So we need to get back and get the liquid nitrogen. You know what? Let's show the hand of the hacker. Let's see what he says. Show hand to hacker. Bondo Grosso. Okay, he's taking it a lot better. He's got the right attitude toward this stuff. I mean, you know, it's still mean to say that's a thing, but, you know. At least he's not running off in a panic. Anyway, I don't think we'll need the... Actually, no, I think we do need that. We'll want to hang on to that. I know, right? Thing can't help it. In fact, hang on a second. Open package. Eat junk food. Fuck yeah. You devour the delicious food-like substance. Make it sound so appetizing. Although I think it was like peanut butter and some kind of... I forget what it was. Actually, look at package. Peanut butter and chocolate cake. Oh, hell yeah. That is good, actually. Open fridge. Alright. Okay, human hand perched on their shoulder. Okay, drop knife. This we won't need. This we will need. Close the fridge. That's only nice. It's only common courtesy. Nice to see that nobody took my liquid nitrogen. It is mine. I didn't put a name on it, but y'all know who it is. Alright, so now we need to get back down over here. Because the bolt cutters are what we need to deal with those urchins. And that's going to be basically the end game area. So, down. Okay, put axe in door. So yeah, one other thing about the urchin is that they'll randomly take stuff off the ground. So when you scare them off, they'll drop the bolt cutters in addition to anything else they might have picked up. All right. Hopefully anybody doesn't. Hopefully people don't need the elevator for a while, because I think that would render it basically inoperable. Although I'm not 100% sure on that. Anyway, we're back down here in the concrete box, back to the steam tunnels. Time to go to the heart of the matter and find out what the hell's happening here. Alright, down the steam tunnel, down the tunnel entrance. Here we go. Large chamber. So yeah, this is where the missing urchins have ended up, and to judge by them, they look like they're being controlled by something, so we need to look at these things controlling them. Yeah, the urchins are saying or chanting something repetitive and monotonal, almost machine-like. Look at growths. They are thin, fibrous, ropey growths. They look very tough. So yeah, if you try to cut them with anything else, it won't work because they're running through the ground and too thick. But if you got the bolt cutters, that gets the job done. You strain and push the two handles of the bolt cutter together with all your strength. At first, it looks like nothing will happen, but then, with a loud click, the jaws cut the wire. The wire, as though under tension, rapidly begins to curl up, disappearing down the tunnel and away. The effect on the urchins is electric, perhaps literally. They twitch, jerk spasmodically, and fall to the ground almost in unison. They have lost all interest in you. Alright. And actually, I just remembered, I think we do need the X one more time. So I'm going to drop the crowbar here. Getting a little crowded inventory. Rest assured, we do need pretty much everything we've got here. We are assuredly in it for the end game now. So down we go. So let us proceed down. Wet tunnel. You are lost in narrow, wet tunnels burrowed through the mud. Muddy, oily water covers the floor. So this is effectively a maze. And we're essentially at the end of the mappable section here. The hand points his mutilated finger north and grips your shoulder tightly. So, if I recall right, there is sort of a logic to where this area goes, but if you don't have the hand with you, and if it's not wearing the hyrax, it will not be able to point the way. But if you do got that, this is the only way you have of navigating it. Again, this is a pretty esoteric solution, but the fact that it happens basically automatically is a slight mitigating factor. It's not like you need to consult the hand to find out where to go. Once you have reanimated it and taken it, this thing is with you. It's impossible to get rid of. So it's not as brutal as it could be, although it is assuredly kind of just a little bit rough. Anyway, let's follow where it's pointing. The hand points its mutilated finger down and grips your shoulder tightly. You notice it's not even telling you in the room description where the exits are, so this maze is completely unnavigable. So, tightly, south, south, down. Here we go. You are lost in narrow, wet tunnels burrowed through the mud. Muddy, oily water covers the floor. A curtain of moldy slime covers the south wall. The hand points its mutilated ring finger south and grips your shoulder tightly. So, interesting thing about this slime, there's a surprising number of things you can do to interact with it, almost all of them fatal. So, yeah, if we touch it, we basically get some of it on ourselves and it eventually kills us. But if you throw something at it, let's demonstrate. Let's throw bolt cutter at curtain. Actually, hang on a second. Let's take a look at this. The entire south wall is covered with a curtain of moldy phosphorescent slime. There's something about the slime that makes it appear unhealthy, as though the influences here are bad for anything living. So throw bolt cutter at slime. The bolt cutter touches the curtain, and immediately some of the slime attacks, flowing almost intelligently onto it. The bolt cutter is now covered with slime. So yeah, bolt cutter is slimed here. So anything you throw into the wall is now covered, and if you try to take it back up, taken. The slime has now flowed from the bolt cutter, devouring your gloves and begun attacking your hand. Interestingly, it's actually tracked in your inventory. You're carrying a crawling slime, a bolt cutter slimed, and so on. A human hand perched on your shoulder, and so on. Slime is creeping slowly up your arm. It reaches your wrist. I'm certain of the crawling slime. Remove crawling slime. So yeah, we are Walking Dead at this point, but it's this is a surprising array of interactions and some rather nice attention to detail for what's ultimately a pretty simple puzzle. You try to scrape it off, but to no avail. It just flows back into place around your arm. It's creeping slowly up your arm. It's reached your elbow. So yeah, in a few moves, it'll kill us. Yeah, pour Coke on slime. Pour Coke on crawling slime. You pour Coke on the crawling slime, wasting it. It's reached your bicep. Alright? So yeah. Shoulder, reach your neck. The slime engulfs your nose. You choke, cough, and begin to suffocate. You fall to the floor, splashing in the water. You either suffocate or drown. After you're dead, it makes no difference. An excellent question, Mirage. You have figured out the solution. So restore. If it doesn't want Coke, we're going to give it something a lot colder. Liquid splashes onto the curtain and a cold mist fills the room. The slime begins to freeze. Nearby, nearly the entire curtain solidifies, shatters, and drops to the ground, revealing an ancient wooden door. As would anyone who knows how the Blob movies end. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where my mind goes. So, it's an interesting... That will be very appropriate in a minute, Orange. But yeah, it's just interesting that they give you a range of things you can do to interact with this, and almost all of them will get you killed. So again, another reason this game stands out is there is that rather nice attention to detail and things you can mess around with. Even though a lot of them are fatal, the game isn't shy about letting you experiment. So you can drop the flask. Now look at door. The door, blackened by age, is built of ancient rotting timbers, but still looks very strong. It is set in a rough-hewn arch. Oddly, in addition to an old, rusted-away lock, there's another which looks new and shiny. The ancient door is closed. So, surprisingly enough, our master key works here. Door is now unlocked. So wherever the hacker got this from, it has access to a lot more than just campus. Anyway, time for the end game. Let's find out where all this is going. As you enter, the door closes and locks behind you. Inner lair. The floor here is stagnant. The floor here is a stagnant, slime-infested pool of water. It feels to be about 6 inches deep. Ropes or wires tumble down the slope, where they enter a large whitish mass, which takes up much of the chamber. The noise is loud here. Yeah, to be continued in Clive Barker's dying. Pretty much. So yeah, the noise is loud here and comes from the mass, which undulates in synchrony with the noise. Wan sourceless light illuminates the chamber. I don't know if that's how WAN is pronounced, but whatever. Set on the wall, incongruous in its surroundings, is a metal box. On one side, a coaxial cable enters the box. On the other, a cable-like appendage leads from the box to the mass. There's a metal cover on the box. Suddenly, the hand leaps from your shoulder into the slime-encrusted puddle. It dives beneath the water. So, yeah, this is final boss time, and suffice to say, there's a very specific thing we need to do to deal with it. But there's some interesting details if we're willing to tank a death or two and observe it more closely. The mass is strangely, even wrongly shaped. It's hard to get a fix on what's wrong with it, but it doesn't look like it could or should exist in any sane universe. It quivers and bubbles as though air were pumping through it. Many wires, tentacles, and combinations of the two enter the mass from all sides, making it almost fuzzy in appearance. I think if we also listen to it, there's another curious detail. You listen closely to the sounds, which are loud and at first seem random. The more you listen, the more you sense a strange regularity to them. You get impressions. Yeah, coax cable. Wait, is this Cthulhu net? Zero? I think you're onto something there. So here's an interesting detail. You get impressions, one after another, of electronic music, a simple sine wave pattern, a telephone crosstalk. They are all overlaid with speech, or something like speech, nearer random babbling, or many people talking at once. You can't understand any of it, but it's so near intelligibility that you feel if you moved closer, you just might get it. You hear a stumbling noise behind you. Turn and see the hacker staggering into the cavern. The hacker stares at you, shocked. It's you! When I gave you my key, I never suspected you'd get this far. Right. Do you know what this is about? So, just update our objectives there. He found the hack god. Exactly. So yeah, you're spot on, Zero. It's never made clear what this thing actually wants, but the implication is it's basically jacked itself into the computer network, and he's literally hacking the planet. It's the Gibson. So ask hacker about mass. Okay, that's just the generic response line. But anyway, the hacker stares at the thing in the cave. I got very suspicious about your problems with the net. I began to trace some coax, found some repeaters and bridges that weren't on the layout charts, and started following them. Anyway, here I am. That thing there, whatever it is, and those wires are interfaced to the whole campus net. And that means it's tied into all the nets. Commercial, government, even military, potentially. So yeah, this thing is literally going to hack the planet. Fantastic. So what's this hand doing here? Look in pool. I guess I better do something. It could be a serious compromise of system integrity if this thing isn't dealt with. He peers at the mass as if evaluating it. He then reaches into a pocket and pulls out a small pair of wire strippers. Oh yeah, that's gonna help. So the hand's trying to draw our attention to the pool. So let's see what it wants. You root around blindly in the gooey, slimy water. You feel something thick and slippery. A tentacle? No, it's cold and dead. Seems to be a line of some kind just below the surface. The hacker advances on the mass, apparently planning to cut some of the wires leading to it. As he approaches, the sound stops completely, and the wires begin a frantic, looping, twinning dance. Twinning or twining, I think. The mass begins to flow toward the hacker almost as quickly as he walks toward it. They reach each other and begin to merge together. He screams, a long, ululating cry that echoes through the cavern. Then he's engulfed. So, that ended well. What's this line? You pull a length of the line out of the water. It's like holding a large, heavy snake. The mass is bulging, vibrating, and rippling. Okay, so direct approach isn't going to work. We need to kill this thing indirectly. So, is this thing some kind of power line? Let's cut it open and find out. Cut line with axe. You strike the line with the axe, making a deep gash in the insulation. Okay, it's going to take a few tries here. Your blow cuts through more insulation and into the conductors. The mass is bulging, vibrating, and rippling. A huge tear is forming where the hacker was absorbed. The line parts. The two ends begin to sink towards the water as they straighten out. The hacker pulls himself out of the side of the mass. As he does, you think you can see many pairs of eyes appear briefly in the semi-transparent mass, watching curiously. Wires and tentacles trail from his body, and tiny, almost rat-like creatures cling to his body everywhere, crawling about like ants. He walks, slowly, jerkily, towards you. Be one, he says, haltingly but fervently. So, take line. You carefully grab the line just as it's about to drop into the water. Oh, thank you, Kirby. The hacker grabs for you. Join us. Serve the master, he croaks. Some of the creatures leap onto you, biting at exposed skin. Right. I think I'm out of time before he'll grab me, so let's see if we can stall him. Hit hacker with line. He is unharmed. It is peaceful within, he remarks. The hacker is surprisingly strong. He drags you toward the thing in the corner, exhorting you to join it, and at last, forcibly, you do. You are not the first or the last. Okay, so we got this rough scope of what we need to do, but we ran out of time there, so let's go back. Okay, ancient doors opened. Alright, so we're on the clock. Hand jumps into the water. There's a metal cover in the box. So if you'll see it there, there's a line going into the box, and there's a line going out of the box, and a tentacle going into the box. So let's open this thing up and take a look. You remove the cover, revealing a plethora of electronic innards. Most prominent are a socket into which the coaxial cable is plugged, and a connector into which the glistening cable-like appendage disappears. So another interesting little point of depth here. You can potentially cut the wrong thing here. You can see the solution is to electrocute it, but if you cut the appendage in the box, you spare it from what you have planned. So the idea is we're going to basically electrocute it indirectly, because any direct approach, since it's in the water, will electrify us. So we want to remove coaxial cable. You unscrew the cable. It now hangs unconnected inside the box. Hey there, hacker buddy. You go ahead and fight that thing. I'm gonna focus on what I've got over here. So reach into water. Here we go. Take water. Take line. Got it. Okay, cut line. Oop. Cut line with axe. The axe is the only thing that's got the meat, enough meat to cut this thing open. Cut line with axe. There we go. Take line. Alright. Time to end this thing. Alright. Put line in socket. You shove the exposed conductors into the socket, producing a shower of sparks. The tentacle connected to the other socket begins to jerk and twitch spasmodically. The mass it's connected to quivers, and a horrible noise, almost like a huge machine running without oil, issues from the thing. The mass begins to change shape, compacting, darkening. You can briefly see human outlines within the gray, gelatinous mass. They surround something larger, of a shape not human, not animal, not like nothing you've seen before. The gelatinous mass solidifies and compacts, leaving behind a litter of smoking debris. In the debris squats a being, huge, misshapen. It stares at you with baleful yellow eyes. Its scaly wings beat slowly, driving a fetid stench through the stale air of the cavern. A barbed tongue slides across its broken, dagger-like fangs. The smooth stone vibrates. It starts to feel warm. Okay, let's look at this thing. It is not from any wholesome place. It is the stuff of nightmares. It is the thing that waits in the dark, the thing that scratches at your windows late at night. It is not death, for next to this, death is a friend to be cherished. The thing tenses, preparing to leap. Its mouth opens, revealing not the glistening interior, but a dead black outline like a hole into nothingness. The smooth stone is now growing with a bright red heat that nevertheless fails to burn you. So yeah, I think you know what we need to do here. Sorry, buddy, we're full. Back where you came from. The stone smashes into the creature, sticking to its Icarus hide. The thing thrashes about, trying to bite at the stone, which is glowing brighter and brighter. Pour coke on the creature. Sorry, the coke's for me! Creature doesn't need coke. That is for official campus use only. Small hands issue from beneath its scales to tug in vain at the irritant. The creature begins to show gaping holes of dark, light-devouring nothingness around the stone. Its wings spread painfully, as though it were trying to fly away and then fold. It widens its jaw in an almost human scream of agony. The black hole of its maw overwhelms it, and indeed the creature appears to be swallowing itself. At last, a gray cloud of greasy smoke surrounds the glowing stone, still suspended in midair. Then even that vanishes, and the stone drops to the ground, no longer glowing. The thing is gone. You might say things are now stone silent. Ha ha! Give me that stone, it's mine. You pick up the stone. It has a long, jagged crack that almost breaks it in half. As you pick it up, thanks for the headband, Zero, you feel it bump to one side. Then as you're holding it in your hand, something pushes its way out through the crack, breaking the stone in two pieces. Something small, pale, and damp blinks its watery eyes at you. Oh, we got a little Cthulhuoid here. It hisses, gaining strength, and spreads membranous wings. It takes to the air, at first clumsily, then with increased assurance, and disappears into the gloom. One eerie cry drifts back to where you stand. Something rises out of the mud, slowly straightening. The hacker, mud-covered and weak, staggers to his feet. "Can I have my key back?" he asks. "Hey!" That demands a musical sting at the end that unfortunately I do not have. But yes, your score is 100 of a possible 100 and 829 moves. Graded on the curve, you are in the class of President of the Institute. Fuck yeah! I banished Cthulhu, goddamn right I'm in charge here.
Hey! Oh!
Alright. So yeah, that is the Lurking Horror. As I said, it's definitely a product of its time. It still has a lot of the...
Yay!
It still has a lot of the annoying features that these games tended to have, but I do think it's still one of the stronger entries in the genre. Most is being generous. I think the majority of its puzzles are reasonably logical, or at least something you could figure out. It's more when you get into the weird stuff later on that it kind of descends into moon logic. Although early on, I feel like they could do more to signpost the fact that you're meant to deal with the maintenance man in that way, because that's still kind of a surprising thing to jump to. We don't really know he's a weird, God only knows what zombie collective construct thing. We just kind of jump to killing him. In fact, let's take a look at this crimes list. At the end of it, we have 9 counts of theft, 3 counts destruction of property, 1 count assault with a deadly weapon, 1 count murder, debatable, but again, he's still technically an employee. I think that counts. 4 counts of trespassing, 1 count desecration of a corpse. I feel reanimating the hand could probably add another count to that, because we didn't know what the stuff does. We just tossed it in there. So yeah, 2 counts unlicensed use of university equipment, and 1 count of looting the deceased. So yeah, assuming whatever happens the next day, because at the very least the lab is fucked up and the professor is spread all over there. But, we've got the hacker attesting to the fact that we were dealing with this thing, so presumably that will serve as some kind of mitigating factor. But yeah, I can imagine this is going to be a very long, very complicated sorting out the next day, which hopefully is enough to give us an extension in our assignment. Because goddamn, a 20-page thing on Anabasis is not exactly light writing material. Yeah, environmental health and safety will hate cleaning up his lab. No kidding. Like, God only knows what else. Like, the elixir of life or whatever the hell that was just what was lying out on the counter. God only knows what he's got there. Exactly. Normally it'd be his responsibility, but he's not around. Yeah, presumably it'd fall to whatever assistant is there, but good luck finding. It might have been his assistant that died. It was the other student that was doing a lot of work there, so he probably isn't the type to attract a lot of people that are willing to work with him, especially since he was literally giving some kind of villain speech during this whole summoning thing. But yeah, that's the Lurking Horror. Thanks so much everybody for coming in. This was really a really fun trip down memory lane. I really enjoyed doing this. Might do this again for one of the other off nights, depending on how much time we have. We'll see how it goes. But next week we will be back to Baldur's Gate 3. Yeah, they're gonna show up, look around, and be like, "Well, looks like it happened again. I'll get the spell book." That's the thing. There are almost certainly other people that have some idea of what's going on here, but that presumably is a story for another time. There is actually a sequel to this game. I don't think it was actually made by the same guy. I think it was literally just called The Lurking Horror 2. But that we will not be doing on stream, unfortunately, but I'll poke at that at some point. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a good night, and see you next time.